everyone.
Oh, no, Vicky's here.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Today is December 4th, 2018. It's just after 9 a.m. This is the regular meeting of the Taos County Board of Commissioners. We welcome everyone here today. I hereby call this meeting to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Chairman Fambro.
Present.
Commissioner Romero.
Present.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Present.
Commissioner O'Donnell. Present.
Everyone would please stand. We should begin the meeting with a moment of silence for our 41st President, George Herbert Walker Bush, who passed away Thursday night. So just some thoughts about our 41st President. Thank you. I guess the flags will remain at half-staff through protocols 30 use. Yeah, well, was there anything else, Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, our sheriff will be here today.
Sheriff?
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you. If everyone would please just bow your head. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day, for all the blessings that you've given us. We ask for your guidance for the Commission as they move forward and provide direction for our community and their needs. Father, we just thank you for everything that you've blessed us with, and we ask that you guide us in our daily dealings and that your will be done. In Christ's name I pray these things. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Sheriff. If you would stay there and please lead us in the pledge.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Commissioners, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Move for approval, Mr. Chairman. Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for the regular meeting December 4th, 2018 meeting, Taos County Board of Commissioners. Clerk, call the roll.
Sorry. Commissioner Romero.
Present, yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagnon.
Here.
Chairman Fambro.
Yes. Next, item number 6, under awards and recognitions. Item A is not something we really need to do, so we'll just skip over that. Actually, it's our honor to present a certificate of retirement to Ms. Becky Paras, number 1. This will be read by our Planning Director, Mr. Edward B. Hill, and then Commissioners. After he finishes, I ask that we all meet down and present Becky with that. Mr. B. Hill.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Corba, Mr. Rockhill, Mr. Jaramillo, County Clerk, Deputy Clerk, staff, members of the public. Today I respectfully come before you on a bittersweet note. Effective December 31st, 2018, Mrs. Rebecca Becky Palas will retire from Taos County after a combined total of 28 years of service to Taos County and its citizens. We are excited for Becky as she begins a new chapter in her life. Becky, through her employment tenure with Taos County, has served Taos County and its citizens in many different capacities. Becky began her career with Taos County in the office of the Taos County Assessor and held a few other positions within the Taos County organization. In the late 1990s, Becky was elected Taos County's first woman to serve in the capacity of County Commissioner, where she served alongside Manuel Pablito Trujillo and Virgil Martinez. Upon the completion of her term as County Commissioner, Becky was appointed to serve as probate judge, and for the past 14 years, Becky worked in the Taos County Planning Department. Becky has served the citizens of Taos County well. Becky is openly recognized by so many, not only through the county organization, but also the public and political sector. It is not unusual to go to lunch with Becky, for the majority of Becky's lunch hours spent conversing with individuals who all desire to visit with Becky. Amongst the Spanish-speaking community of Taos County, individuals converse among themselves and have stated, "Vayan y hablen con la Becky, ella les ayuda." Go and speak with Becky, she will help you. Becky is certainly a unique individual. She is also very strong-willed. It is my sincerest belief that she means well and has good intentions. Who else is going to tell you you can't defend stupid? There have been instances where individuals enter the planning department upset, and Mrs. Paras Mondragon, Becky, has been able to diffuse the situation where before you know it, the individual is joking and laughing as he or she leaves the planning office. Her ability to control unruly kids in the planning department by asking them questions, joking with the kids, or providing the kids with paper, pen, pencil, and or crayons, and having the kids sit and draw while their parents complete their business in the planning department is really amazing. Further, I have never been around anyone who displays so much gusto when they laugh. Becky displays so much gusto while laughing that at times, Becky herself will catch her breath only long enough to state, "I'm going to pee my pants." It is not unusual to hear Becky's laughter throughout the halls of the administration office, including the first floor. You are certainly the life of the party. Comments have been made in the planning department that appears that the public, and everyone for that matter, knows when Becky is out of the office. The phone doesn't ring as much, and there appear to be less walk-ins, all a credit to Becky. There is so much to say about Becky, but in writing this message, I have to remind myself that I'm not eulogizing this woman. I'm wishing her well on her retirement. Becky has made many friends throughout her career, and I, along with so many, consider Becky my friend. To the point of where Becky and I fight, we disagree, we don't speak to each other for periods of time, but in the end, our friendship always prevails. Becky, I will miss you. You and I have worked alongside each other for nearly 15 years. You have assisted me in so many different ways, as you have assisted the entire planning staff, co-workers, and most importantly, the public. Becky, I'm sure the planning staff can all share my many different stories. Me personally, I want to thank you for always being there for me. We have been through a lot together. Our moms shared a similar illness.
Make her cry, Edward. I've never seen her cry.
And you're not going
I might put myself. Our mom shared a similar illness for the fact that you had already experienced what I was going through with my mom, and the guidance and recommendations on how to handle the illness that you provided me were so valuable to me and my family. We lost our moms within 6 months of each other. The loss of other loved ones, triumphs, and tribulations. We've been there for each other. I will forever be grateful to you for being the first person to join me minutes after my mom passed away. The discussions that we've had, both professional and private, I will hold dearly. Thank you. Thank you for everything, and good luck in the future. On behalf of the Taos County Board of Commissioners, County Manager Cordova, Deputy County Manager Jaramillo, the management team, and staff, congratulations on your retirement and dedication to Taos County. Whereas, on this day, Mrs. Becky Paras has been an employee of Taos County for over 25 years, and whereas Mrs. Paras became the first woman in the history of Taos County to serve as county commissioner, and whereas Mrs. Paras is the immediate past president of AFSCME Local 1193, and in her capacity of union president, Mrs. Paras Mondragon fought and negotiated on behalf of county employees for the betterment of working conditions, treatment of county employees, and benefits such as wages, health insurance, leave, etc. And where county employees, including non-union employees, sought Mrs. Paras Mondragon as a confidant to provide guidance and assistance. And whereas, in her capacity of Taos County Planning Department Office Manager, Mrs. Paras Mondragon has established a cordial, consistent relationship with all members of the public, where the public feels comfortable and appreciative of the assistance that Mrs. Paras Mondragon provides on a daily basis. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. Mrs. Mondragon, thank you.
Can I say something? After all these wonderful accolades from Edward, I've decided I'm not going anywhere.
Well, even in leaving, you know that you're probably not done for too long, at least 4 years. So the plaque that, the proclamation that was read by Mr. Vito is in this beautiful plaque that comes from our heart to you. And my name will be haunting you every time you look at it. Let's get a picture.
There's so much to do. Ready? One, two, three. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item B, we will now recognize Ms. Darlene Trujillo, the DWI Program Prevention Specialist, Team Coordinator, on receiving the MAD Honoring Heroes Award. This was something she was nominated by our manager, and let's see if I can bring it up. Ms. Trujillo, the Taos County DWI Program Prevention Specialist Team Coordinator, was nominated by Mr. Leandro Cordova, our Taos County Manager, for the 2018 MAD Honoring Heroes Outstanding Dedication to Underage Drinking Prevention Award. Darlene was selected as a finalist for the Mad Honoring Heroes Award, and our county manager and the DWI program coordinator, Mr. Herbert Valdez, are requesting that the Taos County Board of Commissioners acknowledge and recognize the efforts of Ms. Trio, the work she did on the underage drinking prevention in Taos County program. And the award that Darlene gets, this is a very unique award. It says Honoring Heroes 2018 Outstanding Dedication to Drinking Prevention, presented to Ms. Darlene.
I appreciate this award I received for the behalf of underage drinking. I want to thank the support of the county manager, Bianca Cordova, also the DWI staff for all the effort that we had done in preventing underage drinking throughout Taos County amongst the youth and as well as with adults. It's a great effort, and it was a long journey that we had taken throughout the years to make changes in our community. And I'm greatly honored that Mothers Against Drunk Drivers have recognized all the work that we have done.
Thank you. Next item C is a leadership award presented to Ms. Lupe Martinez, our finance director. The award was taking the team to the top, coming together as beginning and keeping together as a progress, working together as success. And the award was for providing budget management and fiscal integrity to benefit the citizens in their community. Anything to add, Mr. Porter?
Mr. Chairman, I think Ms. Martinez also has an award to present to the Board of County Commissioners on behalf of the Finance Department and her staff, but I'm glad that she recognized her individually because there were two awards presented to Taos County, one to her individually and to the Finance Department.
Thank you. During the 2018 Department of Finance and Administration Local Government Division Annual Budget Conference held in Albuquerque on November 15 through November 16, Taos County was awarded the 2018 Directors Award to Taos County for providing budget management and fiscal integrity to the benefit of our citizens of our community. Mr. Ray Lopez, DFA Division Director, presented the awards during the luncheon held on November 15th. There were 3 award recipients in each of the following categories: 1 award to Special District, 1 award to municipalities, and 1 award to the county. As the Finance Director for Taos County, it is my pleasure to present this award to Taos County and to thank the elected officials, management team, and the entire finance staff for their role in budget preparation. So if you guys want to come down.
This is a picture that's going to go to the paper, so it's going to
And you can also take some pictures of Mr. Good. Thank you.
Or you're facing the camera that way, so cute.
One, two, three.
Good job.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Board Member, just one more thing attached to the work for the budget. You'll see the criteria in which local government set forth how to evaluate the award. As Ms. Martinez mentioned, 1 out of 33 counties received this award, so I just wanted to also share that with the board on the criteria in which they chose. So thanks again, very well deserved.
Very nice. Next item, item 7, is citizens' concerns. We ask that any citizen that wishes to address the commission, please come forward, state your name, and in accordance with our Open Meetings Act, your comments shall be limited to 5 minutes or less. First off, I would ask Mr. Ed who wants to introduce the new employee to the commission.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cordova, Mr. Otto. I come before you this morning and I'm very excited to introduce to you Mr. Joseph Gonzalez. He is the newest addition to the Taos County Planning Department. He comes into the Planning Department as the Plans Examiner Inspector 1. And we hope that Mr. Gonzalez will be a individual that provides immediate assistance to Mrs. Rachel Romero and the needs of the Planning Department. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Commissioner, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Next, I'd like to recognize Ms. Arlene B. Hill. She wants to inform us something regarding straight. I believe Anissa has the letter, or did it come through? Okay. There's a letter that she'll share with the commission at a later time. Go ahead with your comments.
Okay, I came here to, and I'm thanking you for listening to this. I received a letter. Well, first I started, wanted to volunteer for Straight Hearts. And, I didn't want them to pay me, just wanted to volunteer. So I went ahead and I went there, and the first thing they wanted me to do, they didn't have anyone to drive these dogs and cats to Espanola to get them neutered and spayed, so I took them. And during that time, I'm not familiar with the areas there, so it took me a while to find it, and I dropped them off, and then I had to come back and pick them all up. There were like 11 animals. They were all in carriers. And I've never done this, so I went there and I actually helped them quite a lot that day because the manager, her name is Pam, she's the administrative, the office manager there. And she asked me to go to Staples and get some ink for them. So during the time they were getting neutered and spayed, I went to Santa Fe and I went and I got I was trying to get the ink. They didn't have the same colors and all of this, so they told me, well, they can save a lot of money by, getting them their supplies since they need it like every 3 to 4 weeks. We can send them, the ink and at a 10% discount. And it's free shipping, and so I called and she wouldn't return my calls. Pam never returned my calls. She was out to lunch. And so I didn't know what to do. I really wanted to help them out regarding, having the ink supplies they needed because they did not have any ink. They were really desperate. So I didn't get a call from them. So this kid said, that was working there, he said that he would do it, he would make sure that he's going to get all of the information I needed and the card that they have. They gave me a card to use for gas and for the spaying and the neutering. So I didn't hear from them, but one of the dogs really dirty, one of the carriers. So I ended up having to buy some supplies, and then I bought extra towels because they had no towels. I went to Goodwill. It was all on my money, which was fine. I didn't care. I wanted to help them. So then I had to return 2 or 3 of the cats to PetSense in Espanola. And then from there I left and I went to, I picked them up. I picked up all the animals and I brought them back. I was like 45, 30 minutes late. They were all waiting for me. And I tried calling them, but they wouldn't return my calls. The only time Pam really called me back was, when are you coming back, or are you? and that was like at 5:15. When I got there, it was getting dark, and I was very concerned because, I want to be responsible. And so when I drove into the parking lot, like 5 or 6 women surrounded me, and they were all angry. They weren't nice. They didn't say, really, thank you for getting here. I'm glad you're safe. I wanted to give them a report from what the doctor told me and how to take care of the pets. I was really disappointed because when I tried to tell the woman who's in charge, she's supposed to be a nurse. I don't know her name because this is the first time I've met all these people. And I said, well, I'm supposed to give you a report. You're supposed to give these puppies tender loving care because they're still pretty young to get neutered and spayed, and they need some TLC. She says, we'll take care of that. Don't worry about it. We've got it all. Just, you can go home now. And I was really disappointed. Well, I left my gloves in there and this top, another top I had. So then I come back, and because I had wanted to pick up my stuff, I thought they'd still be there. They locked up. It was like no one was there. It was dead. And I thought, gee, don't they have volunteers to at least take care of the animals that had surgery? Because the doctor told me to tell them that. They said, well, you realize that we leave them alone because we don't want to bother them at night. They're not supposed to move. I said, well, one of them had surgery and she was in a lot of pain, the female dog. And she says, well, that painkiller lasts 24 hours. That's not true. I know that. I'm a respiratory therapist. I know that. So I wasn't happy with them. And I was surprised that they locked up. There's no one there to take care of the animals after that. And if they have volunteers that, you don't pay them, they're willing to do it, they're not letting them do it, that's not right. So then I complained. I went to the,
You need to wrap it up.
okay. So then after that, I went for Thanksgiving. I thought, well, I'm going to volunteer. I called the day before to volunteer. And they said, sure, come on in. So I ran there. And they said, well, you can go to the cattery and take care of the cats. So I said, okay. So I ran there and I started washing all the bowls and stuff for the girls that they were taking care of the animals. So then after that, this Raven walks in, and she's supposed to be a manager. And she started telling me, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. I've been really mistreated there, and all I want to say is that there's a lot of people trying to manage. There's too many people trying to be in charge, and they're really taking over the person who's in charge. Her name is Cynthia. She was very nice to me, and she apologized what had happened. But then I got a letter from them, like the 29th of November, saying that I could no longer be there anymore. And that was very hurt, because there's a lot of mismanagement there. That's all I can say. A lot of people feeling intimidated. They don't say anything. They're scared. And I don't know. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Fido. Anyone else wishing to address Mr. Manning?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Ken Manning. I've not really had the opportunity to get to know any of you very well, so let me just take a minute to tell you a little bit of my background. I was a staff person reviewing and issuing development permits decades ago. I've been a manager of a department that issued development permits. I've written ordinances. I've obtained numerous permits on behalf of developers. I know my way around this block pretty well. So, that's why I think, I was able to put together comments on Article 7 and Article 9 3 months ago that y'all listened to and took notice of my comments. And Article 7, I think you agree, probably needs to say the same. Article 9, I got the sense that you wanted to probably come back and revisit that at some point. So I wanted to talk to you a minute about, if you do that, here are the concerns that I have. By way of introduction, I want to also say, here's how, in my experience, the permitting process works. A developer comes in with an application, sits down with staff. There are conversations, negotiations, concessions are made. That puts staff in a position where they kind of feel obligated to recommend approval. They've had a working relationship with the developer. So it's not unique to Taos County. This is the way the regulatory process works. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But where that ends up is almost invariably, if something is on the Planning Commission agenda, is on your agenda, it's with staff recommendation to approve. Staff and developer says, meets ordinance requirements, you need to approve this. Well, if it didn't meet ordinance requirements, it wouldn't be on your agenda. So that's really not saying anything. What it says is, all the boxes have been checked. So, why is it on the agenda? Because ordinances in and of themselves are not always going to be crystal clear as to how they apply in every situation. So there are interpretations that need to be made. There's discretion within the permitting process. That is why it is on the agenda rather than it being an administrative approval. If it was that clear cut, it should never be on your agenda. It would be staff function. So, you've got the developer saying it meets all ordinance requirements, staff saying it meets all the ordinance requirements, approved. Hey, neighborhood has an issue. Well, neighborhood gets up to bat, and the score is 0-2. They've got 2 strikes against them before they get to the mic. So, in saying that neighborhood should not get 2 bites at the apple, I would say the deck is already stacked against the neighborhood. They are fighting an uphill battle to say, you know, here are the erroneous findings of fact, here, and your appeal process is quite onerous. So take into account if and when the Article 9 proposed amendments come back up, that I would have a differing opinion of how to approach things, and I've got some suggestions in that regard, but I trust there will be a robust public process if and when Article 9 comes back up for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. I saw another hand over there. Was it Mr. Pilkey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Maybe a little cautionary on claims of economic development. The way I look at it, there's only so much of a pie, and every new competition that comes in, everybody else gets a smaller piece. I saw a statement on Squawk Box, which gives Wall Street reports and stuff. The Family Dollar has a business plan of saturation.
You cannot, please.
I can't bring it
do not
today.
take the commission. That hearing is scheduled for the 10th, and we're not allowed to hear any comments or testimony regarding
Until then.
Until the
Okay, thank you.
process. Mr. Hall.
Student Hall, Wednesdays. Well, Becky, I'd say 10 till 5 is a ride for you. You are always willing to help me and others, I'm sure, and even to push the boundaries of health. Thank you. In parting, I hope you'll return often, if not regularly, to commission meetings to speak more broadly of your public labor union experience, just as Edward did, and the importance of both public and private labor unions to community and to understanding what it means to be a community. Sharing your experience, your knowledge, your understanding of labor unions will be an important and meaningful contribution to this community, to creating a successful community, by which is meant a community of quality. I'm serious about that, Becky. Take your skills and your efforts, take your labor to a broader community. There's a need for it in this community. In 1859, speaking before the Wisconsin State Agricultural Society, Abraham Lincoln said, quote, "The world has agreed that labor is the source from which human wants are mainly supplied. There is no dispute upon this point," end quote. Later as president in 1861, on the 3rd of December, President Lincoln said in his address to Congress, quote, "Labor is prior to and independent of capital. Labor is the superior of capital and deserves much the higher consideration." With those thoughts in mind, it seems to me that you have a great deal to offer, Becky, along those lines, and I'm truly serious about bring your compadres and speak before the commission, speak before the town council, hold meetings at the Talbot and El Prado community centers. I think that would be a valuable contribution to this community, and I'm willing to help you in that effort. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Stephen, thank you for those kind words. Ms. Parras, the constituent that came before us first, what is
Ms.
it?
Beal.
Yeah, Ms. Beal. Yeah, just a little bit of clarity. Were you talking about the Espinal shelter, or were you talking about?
I was talking about straight hearts here.
Straight hearts. Oh, okay. So, Mr. Chairman,
Management, after being just there 2 times, they told me I couldn't go. I got the letter.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for coming forward to us. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask our county manager to look into this complaint.
He made notes that she was making her presentation.
Because we do assist Stray Hearts financially, and so we want to make sure our constituents and those who volunteer are treated well.
Right.
For free.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner. All right, next item is presentations, item 8. First being item A, a discussion regarding the Taos County complex building distresses to be presented by our Deputy County Manager, Mr. Brent Howell. Quite an agenda heading that you presented here.
Thank you for letting me go earlier. As custom, the staff usually goes later, but we do have an engineer on here, Mr. David Greaves. He's supposed to come in at 10. I know he's already on site, and Gilberto Adam's already with him, and then Jason Trujillo will join him shortly. Jason will come up and add to the presentation. But we wanted to bring to your attention that the administrative complex is under distress, and in April of 2018, doing an inspection by the New Mexico counties and risk management pool, we discovered a new issue with the building, and there's been some old issues with the building. There might be a time that the county is going to have to dip into reserves to resolve these issues. So we wanted to bring them to your attention first. Anissa, please help me with the thing. I'm going to go through my talking points. Taos County has retained WA Specific to perform a complex distress analysis for Taos County Administrative Building. WA Specific has retained the services of a forensic structural engineer to assist in the complex distress analysis. It's called a complex distress analysis because initially upon the first visual examination, the distress exhibited potentially foundation movements and some floor slab movement. The analysis will determine which type of distress has occurred in each of the areas showing distress. Based on the priority, the fire suppression valve and piping system and mechanical room is the priority. Keep going. So this is kind of what we're talking about. This is in a stairwell in the core complex building. You can see there is a gap in the in the concrete, in the center blocks, and that is approximately 1.5 inches in some areas. And I'm going to flip to another picture. And then you can see that the fire suppression system is pulling apart, and that pipe should be resting on that like a U-joint there. So the piping for the fire suppression system is pulling away. Go ahead and go to the next one. There's one more. Well, I'll get to it in the moment directory. So the priority preliminary actions have occurred, including the inspection of the piping and valves in the fire suppression supply riser pipe. The inspection was performed by Valley Fire Inspection in the presence of Taos County building facility staff. Inspection report that the system is stable but continue to observe the mechanical room. The section action that occurred in the mechanical room was to make relief cuts to the floor slab around the riser pipe, and this was done so the riser pipe will not be subjected to the additional differential stress from the moving floor slab in the mechanical room. So Gilberto has made some relief cuts on the concrete floor. We do have a picture, not of the cuts, it's on there, Lisa, but you have to step back to get into it. Yeah, if you step back, it's not a JPEG, it's another one. And the relief cuts are meant to kind of separate the piping from the slabs moving, so that way the slab doesn't, that is an example of where the engineers take around the piping to do those relief cuts. This area is currently stable. The next actions in the mechanical room are to include geotech borings to perform a sampling of the soils beneath the foundation and the floor slab in the mechanical room. This investigation will help determine what kind of engineering foundation support actions will be needed to stabilize the area from further movement or settlement. This analysis will recommend foundation engineering treatments, some kind of helical pile or other retrofitted foundation support measures to stop the movement that's visible in this area. So that's what the engineers here for today. They're working with Gilberto to determine the boring sites. So they'll be here on December 12th to do some core sampling around this mechanical room and next to the assessor's office. And I don't know if they're going to do boring next to the clerk's office. The next actions in the mechanical room include geotech borings. Now moving on to the administration building. This building is exhibiting floor slab movements in the various offices facing the south area. The building has exhibited movement beneath the floor slabs in the assessor's office and various floor slab locations in the south-facing offices. This also includes the clerk's office. The initial investigation to determine an appropriate and cost-effective repairs include some geotech sampling to the floor slab and the fill soils beneath the floor slab. Fill soils are for those imported soils placed on during construction and the compacted list beneath the floor slab to raise the grade to the finished floor grade evaluation prior to placing the concrete floor slabs. The geotech sampling is the primary check for moisture intrusions through various soil depths and no more than 5 feet below the floor slab finished floor elevation. Additionally, the primary analysis includes topographic mapping of existing floor slabs to determine the extent of the floor slab movements. Based on the severity and extent of the floor slab movements, and remedial repairs will be suggested. A leak detection test will also be performed to check the water supply pressure drops within, which can indicate leaking water supply piping. These initial evaluations are scheduled for December 12th. All the suggested repairs will be estimated for final engineering and construction repairs. So we don't have the cost of that. So just to kind of go on to,
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the presentation. But I guess the question that I have is normally, if you look at a building that's being constructed, it would have rebar or those blocks would be filled in with concrete, correct, to hold that all in place, especially in the corner areas. And I know Mr. Sanchez is here. He's kind of like the one that oversaw the entire construction of our complex. I was wondering if maybe you could give us some answers.
Commissioner Romero, with this study we've had, it's been various locations, like Mr. Arno said, in mostly slabs in the assessor's area and in the clerk's area. The slabs in this building are free-flowing from the foundation, so we could have some in the slabs and not have some in the foundations. In that particular location, the block is filled solid with, that's what's the most disturbing part about that. So there, it is filled with concrete and has been, I've gone back and pulled out the different reports for different locations and inspection reports, because we hired third-party inspectors besides the building inspectors to make sure that they followed the building plans.
So, Mr. Chairman, like that particular wall that's on the screen now, those blocks are filled with concrete inside? They're not hollow?
I believe that is still the same stairwell, yeah. They are filled with concrete and they do have reinforcing steel. The one thing that was a little bit, I'm not going to say disconcerting, but that didn't happen, and it's not because they didn't follow the plan. There are only bottom beams, horizontal reinforcement at floor levels. As tall as some of these structures are, like that's a staircase, it's a two-story structure, 2-hour separation for a fire exit. In the past, not here, but in the past here in Taos, we have seen other masonry failures because of no horizontal reinforcing. Back in the mid-80s, a wall at the high school was being built, fell over. I don't know if anybody remembers that. While it was being constructed, bond beams had been poured in place. So I'm not an engineer, but plans were followed, the inspections were done, the reports were done. Things do happen. That one area is one of the few areas that have a shallow foundation. Most of the stuff in the courthouse and here have over excavation 4 feet below the existing, below the foundations, and were brought back with engineered fill. That's on the outside edge of the courthouse. It's kind of almost a freestanding assembly. And so it was over excavated for the main foundation of the courthouse tunnel and that area were poured, and then it was brought up to a certain elevation, and then a shallow foundation was put in for that stairwell. So there could be some water. But that's part of this report and investigations. And
Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Yeah, so there's some settling of the slab, and then there's some settling of the footer also because they're separated.
Yes, they might have some water intrusion in the riser room. They did find a leak in there, and they haven't determined if the leak was the cause of the issue in the riser room. The issues in the assessors were noticed a while back. There's a big bulge if you walk in the assessor's office. There's a big bulge. There's a bulge in the floor in the records room for the clerk's office. And so we have given all the records to the current engineers on the construction methods, the pictures. Gilberto has turned everything over, so we're not sure if it's water intrusion or the ground is shifting, and that's why we're doing the investigation now. I don't think I answered your question, Commissioner.
No, you did. I'm sure compaction tests were taken on the footer and the
Yeah.
slab.
And we turned that all over to the engineering team on it. But like I said, we wanted to bring this to your all's attention sooner rather than later. The team has been working hard internally to come up with the recommendations to get this fixed. There's also a separation, there's also an HR department as well. So we're seeing it in clerks, assessors, and then in the clerk's office, separation is about 1/2 inch. The assessor's office is 3.4 inches. And I could, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So I stand for any further questions. I don't know if I missed anything, Jason.
It's all those prairie dogs you guys moved to tiki, maybe that.
The settling might not continue.
Right, it might continue, but it's come to, like I said there, I started off this attention in New Mexico counties. They're very concerned about the settling, and so they're fully aware. Jason is reporting back to them on a timely basis because they want to see that the county gets this issue resolved.
Thanks. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, in terms of going back towards the contractors, we're going after the contractor. Has that time expired already? Is there any warranty left on this building?
I guess they'll look into it and we'll know something sooner on that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we have to look back. Right before I started my tenure with you, there had been a resolution of the outstanding claims. So we can start by looking at what was resolved at that time and how it was left. But we will look into that and report back.
Because, you know, it's just, I know Alex is in the audience as an engineer, but do you typically see this happening in buildings as an engineer, new buildings? I mean, how old is this building? 10 years now? Is it 10? 18?
Chairman, Commission members, on all commercial and large projects such as this, it's customary for a geotechnical engineering investigation to be done, and I believe it was done on this project. That report then gives recommendations to the engineer that designs the foundation for this building as to over-excavate, bring in engineered fill, do thicker concrete footings, add more steel. And my belief is that all that was followed. Somehow, you're getting moisture change under these areas, and moisture change will cause major problems. Consolidation, which we call settlement. If you got clay material that wasn't all removed, then the clay will swell and it will cause cracks such as these. So the first recommendation I would have is, as your engineer reviews all this, is make sure that there's not a source of moisture that's causing moisture change under any of these areas, whether it's an increase in moisture, when clay swells from extra moisture, when that moisture dries out, the clay shrinks. So you can have what we call heating. You can have freeze-thaw if it's subject to cooling out temperatures. So without a detailed investigation, I don't know, but obviously you have some concerns that are valid, and they need to be looked at and figure out what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like Mr. Baker mentioned that, and I mentioned it earlier, that geotech report will be conducted on December 12th, and that's what they're here today, figuring out where they're going to do those testing at.
Mr. Chair. Vice Chair Gagos.
So is all this happening on this south end?
Yes, it's all happening in the south end.
You look outside on the south end, you can tell how much over excavation and foundation width we put. If you look on this side of buildings and you walk out the door, it's very sloping, so there's not much of good foundation, I think, on that site. To be, when you put the building on the edge right there, and then you have any kind of moisture that's being built back up, it's going to pull that wall back down.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Next item B, is a presentation from Rocky Mountain Youth Corps on recycling. This will be led by the Development Director, Matthew Foster. Morning.
Good morning. Boy, and the meeting started off so good. Good morning. Thank you. I'm Matthew Foster, the Development Director at Rocky Mountain Youth Corps. I have some students from our Learning Lab with me, and the reason we're here started several months ago. I went to the office one afternoon, and there was trash all over the parking lot, and there were birds getting at the trash because our bin was like propped open. And so I said, well, I looked in the garbage in the bin, and there were some brand new cardboard boxes taking up all the space. And so that's why the lid was propped open, and that's why the birds got into it, and that's why the litter was all over the parking lot. And I said, well, somebody's got to do something about this. And so I met with our staff, and he said, well, let's be the ones who do something about this. So we looked at improving the recycling within our office. And because we have the Learning Lab is an alternative middle school, and we have up to 8 students every semester. And so the need for recycling at the office also represented an opportunity to teach the students about science. So we developed a curriculum for the Learning Lab students to learn about recycling. We've been to the landfill, we've been to the recycling center, we've had some presentations from local experts, and because Rocky Mountain Youth Corps is what it is, we encourage all of our Corps members to engage in community issues, to vote, to come to public meetings and learn about local government systems and why programs are the way they are, and to have a voice about the things that they learn and things that are important to them. So part of the curriculum and the lesson plan for the Learning Lab is to come to and give a presentation about what they've learned. So I'm going to ask the students, these are the 9th graders, I'm going to ask the 9th graders to introduce themselves, first and last names, and tell you something that they learned about recycling and something that they'd like to see improved for the future. Then we'll be on our way, and thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Eric Alvarez. We've learned that the machines they use at the recycling center, the parts for them are very expensive to replace. And one thing we want to see is more recycling programs and
Chairman, what type of recycling takes place at the center? What kind of materials are recycled?
one in 2 plastics, cardboard, and newspapers and paper.
So what's like the final destination of this? Where do they go from Taos after they're collected?
I think I'll prepare testing.
Anything else?
Wishes.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Morning.
My name is Montesal Lopez, and when only 1 in 2 plastic could be recycled in Taos. I've also learned that there's specific cardboard that could be recycled, and some are already recycled. I would like to see new people start the habit of recycling for a better environment.
Only one of us bites. So.
My name is Emma Contra. I learned that recycling has one of the most deaths per year compared to police and firefighters. And I would like to see more people recycling, more recycling bins all around Taos. Like all I see is like trash everywhere.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, so how is recycling deadly? Did you say deadly? How does that happen?
Because like the machine, the big machine, like someone falls in and crushes it. Thank you.
The issue that we found with recycling is if you try to recycle everything that there's not a market, you end up with another station that ends up trash. So there's got to be a market for it right now because of actions way above our pay grade has made a lot of the recyclables not market worthy. So we've been struggling with that. Commissioner O'Donnell, do you have anything to add since we have these discussions every month?
Mr. Chairman, I would say that you mentioned the parts are expensive. We can always move towards 3D printing for various parts and cut down the cost. So maybe you could take a look at 3D printing and all the different things that it can do, including making all kinds of parts. So, but thank you very much. We hope you continue making a difference and encourage your family and friends to continue recycling and the value of what it is, what it does for us, both in how we feel and also what we do for the planet.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, you know, how much this commission appreciates our youth, and the fact that you guys came and spoke a little bit about it. And you know, the next round you can tell us more, but we certainly appreciate your presence here, Mr. Foster. Thank you.
Thank you.
For bringing me along.
Thanks, Matt. All right. Job well done. Thank you. Commissioners, under item 9, minutes. The first being the approval, we seek approval for the special meeting minutes from the November 9, 2018 meeting.
Motion approved. I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second to approve special meeting minutes November 9. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blakenher?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Item B is approval of the regular meeting minutes of November 9, 2018.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion is second to approve the regular meeting minutes of November 9. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blakenher?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Item C is approval of special meeting minutes from November 15, 2018.
Motion approved. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the special meeting minutes of November 15. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blakenher?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Commissioners, on item D, this was seeking approval of the joint meeting minutes. I would ask that the motion be a tentative approval pending the actual approval at the next joint meeting.
So moved. Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. The motion is that the joint meeting minutes of November 15, 2018 between the Town of Taos and Taos County will be tentatively approved pending actual approval in the next joint meeting. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blakenher?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, could you, Miss County Clerk, could you please tell me how we appreciate the minutes in there? They're looking very good.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, item 10, is our consent agenda. I will read the items listed A through H, and if any commissioner wishes to have an item pulled, it will be the next order of business prior to item 11. Item A is approval of resolution 2018-64, resolution supporting New Mexico County's 2019 legislative priorities. Item B is approval of DFA 11 2018-19 fiscal year resolution requesting to adjust 2019 fiscal year final budget to account for capital appropriation project for the Department of Transportation to acquire rights-of-way, plan, design, and construct, including drainage improvements to Camino del Medio in Taos County and transfer temporary cash to general fund. Item C is approval of DFA resolution number 12, a resolution requesting to adjust 2019 fiscal year final budget to account for Amendment 1 of Grant Agreement 19-D-G-30 to account for the reversion grant application for alternative sentencing program being administered by the DWI program and to transfer temporary cash from general fund. Item D is approval of DFA resolution number 13, 2018-19 fiscal year resolution requesting to adjust the 2019 fiscal year final budget to establish budget for the 2018 Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG, awarded to Taos County for salary, benefits, and equipment training per grant agreement for emergency management and to transfer temporary cash from general fund. Item E is approval of budget adjustment for Central Communications 0207-0911. Item F is approval of a budget adjustment for the Fire Protection Fund 0209-1552 and 1705. Item G is discussion, consideration, and decision regarding approval of increase of food expense in the amount of $27,968.96 for Taos County Senior Program through CES for the remainder of the fiscal year 2018-19. Item H is acceptance of grant agreement for Taos County Sheriff's Department NDWI program in the amount of $10,420 for fiscal year 2019 Buckle Up program and $1,700 for fiscal year 2019 for the 100 days and nights and $2,924 total funding awarded per the agreement, totaling $15,044. Commissioners, you have heard the consent agenda as I presented. I seek a motion for passage.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to set a motion for approval of all the items A through H that were presented in the consent agenda for today's meeting, with the exception of item B. I'd like some further explanation on this particular project.
Anything else, Commissioner? I need a second.
Second.
Second to approve items A through H minus item B from the consent agenda. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blakenher?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos? Chairman Bell?
Yes. Okay, item B, as stated before, is a DFA amendment for the fiscal year 2018-19, requesting to adjust the final budget numbers on the capital appropriation for DOT to acquire rights-of-way plan, design, construct, and repairs, including drainage improvements to the Medio support of that.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this was a capital appropriation we received last year in the legislative session. We now have received a grant agreement, and that was the point of providing the budget for it. This is an additional $50,000 that we'll put towards the Community Medio project next spring. We'll cobble it with our LGRF monies, and that's how we intend to be able to complete our part of Community Medio with the resurfacing this winter.
And what's the total amount of money? I know this is $50,000. What is the rest of it?
There's another $700,000 that's coming from the LGRF that includes our match for that particular LGRF fund. So I think our grant amount is about $600,000 plus our match, and this $50,000 capital appropriation. So total we have $750,000 to put towards Community Medio this winter.
Okay. And so with that, I looked at some acquisition of water rights of way. Where is that going to take place?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Romero, at this time, most acquisition that would be required would be around the intersection of Medio and Chamisa Road, or Community Medio and the Bajo de la Loma, which is a more minimal. The majority of it is around the Chamisa intersection. We are working with Mr. Alex Abeta to do a resurfacing plan and to identify exactly what is going to need to be acquired.
And since Mr. Abeta is here, would you care to share some more thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, board members, we are finalizing plans as we speak. Actually, Amos met with Ivan Trujillo and Charles or George Rivera from Saga Miller last week. And we met with French Espinosa and we indicated that the plans would be finalized today. So you will receive a 100% design set The sub-consultant for Sauter Miller, which is basically their in-house surveyor, has completed those right-of-way maps, and Mr. Cordova was correct that there's a major acquisition at the intersections of Camino Chamisa Road. However, there are some slivers along the entire reach, either to the left or right side of the road, that require some acquisitions. So right-of-way maps are being finalized, and then at that point, you will need to look at how you're going to come up with values, which means an appraisal of these areas of take. But that's a separate item. For now, the guidance the county has given us is to come up with a budget to patch, nail, and overlay the roadway within its existing right-of-way. The new right-of-way acquisition will be as part of a future reconstruction project that comes later. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Seems I recall our last report, correct me if I'm wrong, that you were all ready to begin moving forward on acquiring the rights of way from property owners.
No, the right-of-way maps, the last report were complete, but to acquire right-of-way, you still need an appraisal, you need an abstract of all the property owners, and so those two steps are still not done. And it's not part of the current contract.
When will that be done then?
When Sauter Miller is either given an amendment or a future task to do that. All French is authorized for now is the completion of the design, which is done, and the completion of the right-of-way maps. And what the right-of-way maps do is they go out and survey all the properties, pick up all the survey pins, and then they establish, okay, if we got a fence here, is that fence on property, or is property line 2 feet back, or 2 feet on the other side. So those right-of-way maps are done, the design is done, but there's no appraisals done yet, and there's no values assigned to easement or right-of-way takes.
Mr. Cordova.
Separate item.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, as Mr. Abeta mentioned, we are still continuing to work with the town of Taos on that particular aspect. They are finalizing that portion of it with Sauter Miller, and it's a project for us at this point to finalize those plans. As Mr. Abeta mentioned, we are going to go forward with resurfacing within the existing right-of-way for now, so that we can get that out of the way. We know that there's a problem, especially around the Chamisa intersection, that we absolutely have to address, and the future construction, including the widening of the road, is into the future, and we do not have the funding to do the entire expansion as of yet, but we want to have the plans complete and be prepared for an ask into the future.
So how much total funding are we looking at besides the 750?
At this time, that's what we're focusing on. There may be, it's all estimates at this time until we complete the right-of-way acquisition surveys and appraisals, as Mr. Abeta mentioned. So we don't know exactly what it will cost us. We're assuming under $200,000.
So are we planning to go to the legislature for this request? The Association of Counties Executive Director at our last executive board meeting stressed the fact that there's going to be a lot of money available to the legislature this year, potential for funding of big projects.
I don't know if this is one that we had contemplated going for. We just talked about the 750 will get us a complete overlay at this time, and I think this is a project that is now looking further ahead for the major reconstruction portion of it. So I don't know if this year's the appropriate year to ask for that big ask. We have other needs that we will probably prioritize over this at this time, especially considering we should have a good surface before summer of next year.
And so are you going to eliminate the speed humps that are along Camino del Medio on the county side of it?
That is what the engineering calls for.
Eliminating the speed humps?
Yes.
And what about curb and gutter and sidewalks?
Right now, the 750,000 is enough to do a leveling course on there, clean out the speed humps, and do an overlay. But it's not enough money for curb and gutter sidewalk shoulders.
What about the intersection of 240 and Camino del Medio? Is that going to change at all?
It doesn't change 240 on the south end. What it does do is there's a drainage structure at Camino Bajo where the road has a hump. We're doing an arch pipe there, and then over at Chamisa and Medio, we're realigning the roadway and improving the drainage there.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Romero, we did not engineer that intersection as part of this joint project. We do understand that intersection will require a lot more, I guess, focus specific on the intersection, and it's a collaborative with the DOT that we're going to have to work with, so that's still a future project for the design of that intersection.
It's very dangerous.
And Mr. Chairman, when you say you've done the right-of-way and that's for the entire section, both town and county, is that correct?
So what's done today is 100% of the right-of-way map for the entire 3-mile reach, which includes the county reach and the town of Taos reach. The design is also done for the entire 3-mile reach. So basically, the county and the town of Taos now have a shelf-ready design for the project. Prior to going to construction, of course, is the appraisal, the title searches, and the right-of-way acquisition. Those 3 items still need to be done.
Mr. Chairman, is it possible you could look to see if we could arrange this overlay to go along with Cutler's schedule? See if we can get on the Cutler list. We would probably save a significant amount of money if we use them.
Chairman, Commissioner Dunn, we can look into that, but generally, you're not saving money by going through Cutler, because they're still getting the product from Northern Mountain. So it might be more expensive to go through Cutler versus going out and getting a state price agreement or putting it out to bid. So that's one of the things with, even when the towns use Cutler, Cutler is still buying the product from Northern Mountain, so that still raises the price.
Quality and speed is what they do.
But don't they take the roadway and remill it?
Not in every occasion.
Not in every occasion, so even though you've seen them around, it depends, like the chairman said, it depends on thickness. So if you need something, and Mr. Bates probably answers this better than I can, probably need something greater than 4 inches to be able to pick up and mill and recompact it. Then you're still adding aggregate back into the process too.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, the discussion we had with staff was to go in and sock up and fix all the potholes, do a leveling course to get a constant uniform grade with a crown, mill out the speed humps, and then come in with strictly an overlay. So it's not a mill and overlay where this huge machine comes in and mills out part of the existing asphalt, heats it out, blends it with new mix, and overlays it. It's a brand new overlay. What you have out there right now is approximately 2 inches of asphalt, and to get a good road that's going to last for a while, we need to get to 4 inches. So the idea would be to do approximately a 2-inch overlay.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair Guy. Mr. Vinta, if you can as well, putting that crown, but also removing as much as vegetation as you can on the side of the road, because that vegetation kind of continues to absorb, and then that's where the roads start falling apart mostly is on the side. So whatever contractor is doing that kind of work out there would make sure that they get that stuff, that vegetation out.
And it would be similar to what we did for you on Chamisa Road from Salazar down to Camino Medio. We overlaid, in that case you didn't have asphalt there, but we crowned the base course, and then we overlaid it or paved it with a crown, and we established the best possible bardages within that existing right of way. And there is enough room on the existing Camino Medio to do that. Obviously, you would end up with approximately 2 11-foot mains rather than 12-foot mains, but those work fine.
Commissioner Blankenhorn. Thanks, Chairman. In the mill overlay, how thick does that end up being?
I'm talking to French the other day about what the town did on their reach. They did mill out just like a 1/4 inch, and it was more to establish a way to bond the new asphalt to the existing. On your reach, the 2 options are to do that. The other is to do a tack coat between the existing asphalt and the new asphalt, so that we get that 4-inch thickness.
Okay, so on a mill overlay, you're not going to get the 4 inches, is what you're saying?
Yeah, you'll end up with something that's 3.5 or 3 inches.
And the cost differential?
I don't have those numbers yet. We haven't done an engineer's estimate for the project, other than we do know that the 750,000 is more than enough to reconstruct your entire reach with that overlay.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know how we take into account the plans of the town for annexation. They indicated that they would take an additional quarter mile of Camino Medio. So I don't know if that brings our costs down. I know we have to wait until they do the annexation, but they did say they'd take at least a quarter mile in the annexation. So that would be a little bit less of a cost for us.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Long, yes, there is some drainage improvements that would need to be made to that particular stretch. So the town does take that over, which we will continue to consult with them, make sure that we're not jumping ahead of those plans, but they did indicate that that would be something they would be willing to put the bill for, is the drainage improvements that would be required on that stretch.
And Mr. Chairman, will you be bringing back the design plans, the engineered plans, just for us to take a look at some point?
I think we've received those for Sergeant Miller, so we'll have to look at where we're at with our receiving of the plans.
Yeah, the plans were actually stamped on Friday, but we were going to distribute today. So, Public Works Director will be giving a comment or something.
Pleasure of the commission regarding item B as stated.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion is second to approve item B as pulled from the consent agenda as read. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Okay, next item. Commissioner Blankenhorn would like a break.
5 minutes, motion to 5-minute break.
Second. Motion is second to take a 5-minute break. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Thank you. We'll be back in about 5. It's like a 90 question now. Motion to come back into regular session. Second. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell? Yes. Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Okay, next item 11 is public hearing continued from November 27, 2018. Item A is to reconvene a public hearing for final discussion and consideration regarding major development permit of commercial use MAJ-01-2018. These matters may be discussed in executive session under Open Meetings Act exemption 10-15-1H3, which allows deliberation of the public body in connection with an administrative adjudicatory proceeding. So I think we finished the public comments period of this. Vice Chair Gallegos has reviewed the video of the meeting and has been brought up to speed as well. So the next step, I guess, is staff's recommendation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. What I would like to introduce into the record today is a couple of items that you had questions on at the first public hearing on this matter. What I would like to enter into the record is an email from the State Historic Preservation Office regarding specific questions that Commissioner O'Donnell had about the archaeological sites that we referenced in the letter that they submitted to our office as part of their review of this property. And then also for the record, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I would like to also hand you a rendering of the proposed elevations for the hardware store for the record. So Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I would like to hand these two documents to you now.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chair Gallegos.
for the record, I did get to review the video and go through basically Mr. Vita's presentation. I'm sure Mr. Vita didn't have the time to find out how many water heaters there are or how much. Oh, there's 5 water heaters, okay. So just for the record to show that I did watch the video and I did participate
through the presentation. I did hear Ms. Zamora's concerns that the Pueblo had. I do want to say that, if possible, although I wasn't able to participate in the meeting that day, that as you put lighting inside that complex, that you, which one? Oh, there's a second. Yeah, okay. I drive by at different hours of the night and seeing that Randall Lumber's yard is pretty lit up. If it's something that you can do to soften the light, we'll call it light pollution, I guess nowadays, that everybody talks about. That's really light lit up the way Randall's is, and I just hope that maybe you guys can consider the type of lighting that would kind of keep your place safe and secure, but that's something that you would do consider properly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Clare.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, like as referenced here on the monitors, you'll see what the proposed elevations are going to look like for the main part of the development. As you can see, they're Pueblo-style Spanish Revival architecture. And as mentioned in my staff report that I submitted to you at the last meeting, this type of architecture is visually compatible with the existing commercial and residential structures that exist along State Highway 150. And also, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, as you see there in the email that I submitted to you from the State Historic Preservation Office, the majority of the archaeological sites that are referenced in that email, in fact, all of them have to do with just, cultural artifacts, like pottery shards, things of that nature. No human remains were discovered, anything like that. But Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, also as a condition of approval and as referenced in my staff report that I submitted to you for the last meeting, should anything come up during the course of developing this property, I did make it a condition of approval that, number one, the State Historic Preservation Office be contacted, and also, number two, that Taos Pueblo also be contacted for consultation should any cultural or other archaeological artifacts appear during the course of developing this project. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, with that, with those items being introduced into the record and with those statements, staff recommends approval of this project with the conditions that are stated in my staff report. And at this point, I stand for any questions from the Commission.
So, Mr. Chairman, the two artifact sites, and thank you for clarifying that. One is a prehistoric artifact scatter, the other is a prehistoric habitation site. So, in the event they start excavating and they find historic artifacts, then what's the process? An archaeologist comes in and extracts them?
Chairman Fambro, Commissioner O'Donnell, the process will be is that they will have to contact the State Historic Preservation Office, and then they will, Mr. Coca has already committed to hiring an archaeologist to do the excavations, and so in consultation with the state, that archaeologist will work with the state and with the Pueblo to make sure that there's, that it's properly excavated and, there's sensitivity to, to any artifacts that are found. And of course, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, all work in ceases until those items are excavated and addressed.
Thank you.
Okay.
And could you refer us to the letter of your conditions with approval? Where is that?
Okay, under the conditions of approval in my staff report, I can refer you to the page number if that would work for you, Commissioner. Let me see here, that would be...
Weren't they listed in the last, when we had the actual hearings?
Yes, that document, let me see, Commissioner, let me go ahead and refer you to the packet submitted by the applicant. And let me see, that was the letter that was submitted to our office by Mr. Baker. Okay, let's see here, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, let me look that up real quick here in my staff report. Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, those conditions are in my staff report. They're listed on page, under my recommendations, on page 23 of my staff report, under item number 2. And I'll go ahead and read that for the record if you like. Let's see, it says here, should any archaeological or cultural artifacts be discovered during the course of developing the subject property, the property owner shall contact the State of New Mexico Historic Preservation Division State Agency so that they can evaluate them in addition to doing the following. The Taos Pueblo shall be informed should any archaeological or cultural artifacts be discovered on the subject property. In the event that any archaeological or cultural artifacts are discovered, the property owner shall further agree to pay for any costs associated with the handling of said artifacts. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner O'Donnell, that is a recommendation that staff has included in my report, and as referenced in the updated packet that was submitted to you by the applicant, there is an agreement from the property owner with the Taos Pueblo that states that he is willing to bear any expenses related to such discoveries.
And
So
that was the only added
yes,
condition?
yes,
Okay.
yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner O'Donnell. Any other questions, Commissioners?
Mr. Blankenship. Thank you. Do we have a architectural rendering of the coffee shop and the restaurant?
The coffee shop is, yeah, we can pull that up for you. Let's see, actually, there's one on there. It's the cafe elevations.
Also, Mr. Chairman, the materials like this, I was under the impression that that was going to be covered, the area of the yard, the materials yard. Is that going to have another structure?
I'll let the applicants speak.
Are the materials going to be exposed?
Let's finish with the elevation of the coffee house first. We'll try to take these in order, please. Commissioners, wait till you're... Okay. Commissioners, what you see now is a rendering of the coffee shop. And as you can see, that's Pueblo-style Spanish Revival architecture as well. So again, staff has no issues with the proposed architecture as it's presented here, because it does blend in with the surrounding architecture that you see along that highway.
And the permitting that's being considered today is specifically for these plans?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now to Commissioner Romero's request regarding the covering of the lumberyard.
Okay.
Chairman, Commission members, we did not provide any elevations, but obviously the lumber will be in steel beam canopies, which are similar to what the Rio Grande South Side has now. Obviously, those structures need to be less than the 23 feet height. It's allowed by the Upper Columbus neighborhood regs. The county regs are 27, but theirs are more stringent. So we don't have elevations, but they will be covered. We can't have lumber out there that's sitting in the elements or having to be covered every year. I don't see a rendering of any sort. Is there one? The land use regs don't call for a rendering on these structures such as that. It calls for renderings on buildings. But it'll be under the 23-foot height. If there's any siding on the back, the sides, and of course the roof, it'll be earth tone color to match what you see here. So it won't be a bright red or a bright pink or anything. Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Dang.
I guess, can you kind of do a recap on what the conditions that I did make the request that the property owner would
consider those light ordinances or light nuisances that we have, that people could be contesting down the road.
Yes.
And is the signage going to be lit up, tall 20-foot sign? Is it going to be a roadside sign? I mean, I'm sure it's going to be very appealing, but is there any indication what the property owner can do as far as putting Rio Grande's sign up that's going to look out of the ordinary? Is going to be something that's going to be very relevant?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Gallegos, one of the conditions of approval that I do have is that the property owner is going to have to submit a fully detailed lighting schedule for the exterior of the buildings, as well as for any proposed signage and also for any lighting in the parking lot. And also, they're going to have to give us details on how the signage for the proposed businesses will automatically shut off during the times that commercial operations are closed. So in a nutshell, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Gallegos, all these schedules are going to have to demonstrate to us that they comply with Taos County's Dark Skies Ordinance.
That's your item 4, A through D.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And then also, if you would prefer, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, one of the things that we could put as a condition of approval is that Mr. Coca put a monument sign, to advertise the commercial project rather than a freestanding pole sign. Those look better, and under our guidelines for the sign code, the monument sign, has to be, decorated with a bonco, and it's a low-setting sign, and it looks a lot better than what you would see, the flagpole sign and stuff like that. So if you would like that as a condition of approval, I can certainly add that to my recommendations in this report.
I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, 27, Lisa. Hold on, we're bringing up your conditions now.
Okay.
It's down the page, starts on page 28 of 41. A little bit further. Go up a little bit. Right there. There's the line departure for you. Commissioner Blankenhorn.
Thanks, Chairman. I meant to ask about the signs. Thank you for reminding me, Commissioner Gallegos. And I can't recall the specifications in the LUR regarding the signage, but it's, I think, important for us to know what it's going to look like under the visual compatibility standard. Signage can really change the feel of a development. And then we have the issue of somebody eventually leasing the coffee shop and the restaurant, and they're going to want signs. So that's a concern to me.
Yeah, Chairman Donnell, Commissioner Blankenhorn. We don't have design guidelines specifically in the sign code ordinance. What we do have is that we do make sure that the sign code is tied in with the dark skies. In other words, so they can't have big bright lights, they can't have, hot pink colors, they can't have, these really, lime green, really outrageous colors. That kind of governs, the design of signs right there. And then again, they can't be really, bright signs. They have to comply with dark skies. So that's one of the things we would look at when they're ready to submit for sign permits, is we make sure that they comply with those standards, because there's a couple of built-in things already in the sign code that address that. And so I don't know if that answers your question or not, but outside of those design guidelines, we don't have anything else in the sign code that says they have to be visually compatible with other signs in the area.
But you're suggesting now that to put a condition in that's going to eliminate pole signs and require something that is structural.
Yeah, monument signs. instead of
Monument
pole
sign.
Yeah.
And that's okay with the developer?
Mr. Chairman, commission members, we're okay with not doing a pole sign up front. We would want to reserve the ability to do a ground monument sign. There's an entrance wall that's color coded at the front. Perhaps Dennis would want a ground monument sign there. And of course, there's a lot of parapet on this building. They may want a sign on the building face. Once again, we would agree that any sign that goes in by any of the tenants or the owner would be sensitive to dark skies lighting. We would agree that when the business closes, it would be on a timer and that sign would turn off during the overnight hours. I can go further and say that we would make any of these signs match the color, the earth-tone colors of the building. It's not bright red or pink or fluorescent green. The signs will resemble the buildings.
Does that include like the Starbucks green? Just kidding.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vita, I do appreciate that the property owner is willing to work with the county, because it is a major site that's going to be developed, and it's going to stick out already as it is, so I do appreciate that your property owner is considering to work with, and maybe before they invest too much in it, that we have some conditional approval. But I mean, I'm sure Mr. Coca will do the best he can to fit in that area. It's just that it's major until it starts getting developed, you can see how big it really is. And that's kind of what puts a little bit of fear in people's eyes.
The only thing that the planning director, Mr. Edward, will just caution me on now is that we've got to keep in mind that the Rio Grande Corporation sign is actually red. So we'll keep that size to a minimum, whether it'll be on the parapet or on the monument or both. I don't know. We'll work with staff. As you know, the building permit and the sign permit go hand in hand. They're not part of major development, but we understand the concern that you want to know what it's going to look like. So we'll work with staff to make that impact as minimal as possible.
Maybe you could run everything by the neighborhood association to make sure that, because they did voice their support in the last meeting, so just make sure they're in the loop when it comes to the signage.
We will involve them in that process, just to make sure we don't put up something and they raise a flag.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioners?
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. Chairman, could you point me, how long is that red snow fence? There's reference to a snow fence and being red.
Snow fence. Is that along the state highway, you mean, or just?
No, I think it was somewhere along the ditch or the pond.
Okay, maybe Mr. Baker can consider.
So during installation of the 3 culverts on the Juan Manuel Acequia, the Acequia wanted us to protect the rest of the ditch, so we agreed to put this, it's like orange-looking construction fence, it's 3 feet tall. So that only goes up during construction, the Acequia culverts network, that gets removed before the project opens. It's temporary in nature.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I do have, the other condition is that these water heaters are NOx 10 rated to help with global warming. And I know that's would be a...
Can we require that?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I believe you cannot, just because it's a state mandated regulation, and the county does not inspect the mechanical or plumbing aspects of a building's construction. It will be up to the state inspectors to make sure that they comply with any applicable regulations related to water heaters. so the county would not be able to enforce something.
And I understand that, I mean, maybe we need to have an ordinance, because that's what California's done, but so then with that in mind, I'm asking for voluntary compliance to show that ACE is concerned about global warming and will put in whatever they can to reduce carbon dioxide emissions.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Commissioner O'Donnell, obviously I'm not the mechanical engineer, I'm the civil, so all I can do at this point is take that recommendation back to Dennis Coca, that they consider that, but I can't commit to it. Obviously we got to meet the minimum requirement by the state under the mechanical code, but to take it a step beyond that, I can't make that commitment.
Still want to ask if you would want.
Yeah, we will make the
I don't think
recommendation.
it's that much more expensive.
We will make the recommendation to Doug Patterson, the project architect. He actually is overseeing the mechanical, electrical. And I do know there are 5 water heaters in the larger building, and there's probably a 6th one over at the cafe building. But we'll take that and make the recommendation.
I would like that in the list of conditions as a voluntary compliance. That means that we're not enforcing.
As a recommendation.
As a recommendation, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And now you need to start battling the state CID.
Well, actually, we just need to pass an ordinance.
I don't know if we can supersede the state law, but anyway, Mr. Foote, anything else?
Okay, no, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, do you have any other questions for me at this time?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like for you to kind of recap what needs to be included in the motion. Mr. Chairman.
That's back to what Anissa had on the screen previous. Those are your staff recommendations, so the motion would be, give us your recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, what I would recommend is, of course, including my staff recommendations as referenced in my staff report, in addition to after this discussion, including the fact that the applicant create a monument sign rather than flagpole freestanding sign. That would be the other condition. And then as a voluntary condition, add in there that the property owner look at putting in water heaters that comply with the standards that Commissioner O'Donnell mentioned. So those are the only 2 addendums I would like to add to my recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, based on that, if staff is done?
Yes, and then Mr. Chairman, also I would just like to incorporate my proposed findings of fact as referenced in my staff report as part of your approval.
Based on those first 26 pages as listed there. Okay.
So based on that,
Moving to item B. Okay. Do we need to go to executive session? Seeing none, we'll move on to item B. Commissioner Romero.
Motion, Mr. Chairman, give approval to the application for major development prepared for Mr. Dennis Coca for the Rio Grande Ace North location. To include all of the documents that are deemed necessary by our planning department.
And conditions of fact and
Proposed findings of fact and recommendations.
Yes, thank you.
Is there a second?
Second that motion.
With a little discussion. The Coca family is a longtime resident. This is one of the only 2 that I've been able to research actual franchise, national brand that are locally owned. And that's the difference between the Smiths and things of that nature. This is a locally owned franchise by local people that participate in our community in every way possible. That's the difference that I looked into on this regarding some issues that were brought forward. So, with that, clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell? Yes. Commissioner Blankenham?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Pepper?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Correa. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All
Thank you,
your staff, Mr. Baker, very good presentation.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Under item 12, department matters. seeking approval of resolution number 2018-63, authorizing the county to submit an application to DFA Local Government Division to participate in the local DWI grant and distribution program and delegating authority and MOU with DOH assurances and statements of assurances to be included with the fiscal year 20 local DWI grant fund application to be presented and requested by our DWI coordinator, Mr. Herbert Butler. Hi.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the commission. I'm here to present the Taos resolution number 2018-63 to see if we can get this resolution approved so that I can start the application process to the fiscal year 2020 grant distribution funding for the DWI program.
Pleasure of the commission.
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion is second to approve resolution number 2018-63 as stated in the agenda. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell? Yes. Commissioner Blankenhorn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bender?
Yes. Thank you, Herb.
Mr. Chair, along with it, we've got a memorandum of understanding. The memorandum is for the program to release certain information to DFA or to the Department of Health so that they can look at some of the data that we enter into the database and make reports to the legislature on how we're doing with the program and what it looks like compared to the real numbers of the courts that we serve here in Taos. And all these data, they just look at it, but they don't look at names or any kind of information that would reveal any kind of people violation.
Okay.
Also, I've got the statement of assurances, which says that the program and the county will follow all the rules of DFA and all that. Also, that if the program were to run short on money, or if that we overspent our money, that the county would have to cover that portion. In the 15 years that I've been doing this, I don't think that I've overspent. In fact, I think we're giving more money than anything back to the state. And the last but not least is the DOH assurances and cooperative agreement. That one also has to do with, for the DOH, our application for the DWI program is going to be reviewed by the Department of Health. And in there, there's a plan that's supposed to be accepted by the Department of Health for what we're doing for the fiscal year 2020. And they've got to approve that plan or disapprove it, depending on what is written on that grant. So those are that's all the information that I have for you.
All right. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next item under County Manager's Report Matters, item 13A is discussion regarding Town of Red River Memorandum of Understanding with the E911 Board. Mr. Portable.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. I just wanted to update the board on this topic. When about almost 2 years ago, the tax was passed for our E911 dispatch center, there was discussion at the time about how Red River would play into that, considering they do operate their independent dispatch center up there. At the time, we had invited them to become a member of the JPA. We had spent several months in discussion as we developed the JPA, assuming they were going to become a member. As we got close to the finalization of the JPA, there was a decision made by the town of Red River not to continue to be a part of the actual JPA and instead try and pursue an MOA, a Memorandum of Understanding or Agreement, in regards to how they would get some disbursement of that GRT tax. That MOA had been, it had taken a while to draft. There was certainly a little time there. There was some concerns that I raised specifically to reporting and to potential clawbacks from the tax and rev department, things like real procedural, audit-based stuff. We do have to account for all the money that is generated through this county increment, and it is specific for dispatch. So that was one of my concerns, is that the reporting provided by the town of Red River was able to prove that the money was being spent specifically for dispatch. The MOU got to a point where we were able to introduce it to the full JPA board. The JPA board looked at the MOU in, I think, early November, late October, I can't remember exactly when. At that time, it was recommended by the JPA board, the full governing body, to kick it back to this finance subcommittee to be able to identify and look at the fiscal impact of what it would take to, or what it would consume in the fund balance if the JPA board agreed to push this up to the full board. So at this time, I guess last week, Friday last week, this finance subcommittee did meet. They did discuss this item, and out of that meeting, there were other questions that were raised. Stuff that I honestly have thought of myself, which is, I guess, the advantage of governing together, so that the more minds thinking about things, the better. The issues that were raised last Friday were in regards to, first of all, the reporting. They had requested financials from Town of Red River. What they received wasn't really enough detail to make the finance subcommittee comfortable with what was being presented. The other question that came up when I had overlooked was the fact that Red River does dispatch for the village of Angel Fire, Eagles Nest, and Moreno Valley, which are all in Colfax County. A legitimate concern that is now that it's been brought to my attention is a concern of mine, because we do need to verify that the money that would be given to them, if approved, is specific for Taos County residents and not for any of the Colfax County operations that are being dispatched for. So at this time, that's where we're at. There's also obviously a concern from the town of Red River as to whether or not we're just trying to delay this. That's not the goal, is to just delay this and kick the can. I believe very strongly that the will of the bodies was to have a joint governing body, which is the JPA board, to make decisions on behalf of the 5 entities that are associated with that. The increment is a county increment. Only a county could have gone out to the voters as we did, and only a county could collect and disperse this tax. Our board, along with the other members of the JPA, agreed that the county would pass over the proceeds of that tax to the JPA and allow the JPA to govern how that money is being used. So that's where we're at this time. I felt we needed to give an update to the board because there are some concerns from the town of Red River. One thing that I believe we have agreed upon is how to calculate the amount of taxes within the area that Red River governs. So the basic, roughly their 1 square mile, we have been able to determine a valuation method from that area to get to an amount. The other component within the MOA is basically paying them back from the very beginning of the collection of this, which is what was the concern of the JPA board in terms of fiscal impact. So it will be a pretty significant amount of money if approved by the JPA board. Then it will come up to the full board of county commissioners for your approval, as it is a county tax, as I mentioned. So at this time, we are waiting for the JPA board to be able to make a decision one way or the other and recommend it up to the full body for your approval, and that's where we're at with the process. I stand for any questions of myself or Mr. Martinez, who's also with us today as the director of the dispatch center.
You'll let us know on that.
Yeah, I will continue to monitor it. As I said, I do want to get the point across that we are not trying to hold up anything that Town of Red River feels that they are entitled to. I do have the concerns that were brought up on last Friday are new concerns of mine, and I do think it is valid that we request documentation from the town that specifies how they're using the money and making sure that it isn't passing over our borders. Nothing against our family or our neighbors over there in Colfax. We certainly do want to help and work with them, but it is a Taos County tax, and our residents approved it for the services within Taos County.
Correct.
That's my update. Next, moving on, just wanted to remind the board of the BIPO conference this week, Better Informed Public Officials. I will be attending. I'm going to be attending with our assessor-elect, Ms. Maria Dimas, who will be both of us will basically be attending most of the assessors stuff. I think it's important for me to learn as much about the assessments as it is for her. So I will be there this week through Thursday and be back at the office on Friday. I also believe you have all been contacted by Mr. Romero about moving our retreat. So we have decided to move our retreat to January 10th and 11th as opposed to next week, right before the holidays. Many scheduling conflicts that arose, and it just makes a lot more sense. Plus, quite honestly, I think my department heads could have used a little more time to be prepared, so they are going to get a little extra time as well. So with that being said, I would like to, on our December 18th meeting, have a discussion on our legislative priorities so that we can still be a little bit ahead of the game as we go into the legislative session. So on December 18th, we will have an item where you'll be introduced to our county lobbyist who we hired under a contract, and have a discussion about priorities, and I will have recommendations at that time, and then we'll get the input from the board so that we can be prepared going into the session. Taos Feeds Taos is scheduled for December 20th at 9 a.m. As always, my commissioners are invited.
I gave you each a schedule that Francis brought to us, and he apologized to get another meeting, but, so we'll need to, Anissa, if you can ask Renell to put out a quorum please for that. Thank you.
And the actual event is the 21st?
No.
Francis said it's the 20th?
Yes. Mr. Cordova was here earlier this morning, and I believe the date he gave us was December 20th.
Those are the outlined distributions, I think, at the 21st.
Okay.
At the location.
The sheriff mentioned the 19th is when they'll be doing the packing of the boxes, and they are still looking for volunteers, so we will consider allowing county staff to help, depending on the number of volunteers they still need. This year, I think, has been a little bit more challenging for the Taos Feeds Taos, and so we're certainly trying to support them as much as we can. It's a great event for our community. As we did recognize Ms. Becky Taos Mondragon today, there will also be a luncheon for her. The planning staff are going to be putting on here in the chambers Friday from 12 to 3. So the commissioners are also invited to that. We will go ahead and do a notice of forum just in case, but you're definitely invited to come and enjoy an afternoon with Ms. Paras. It'll be fun, I can guarantee it. It'll be fun. Hertner, still awaiting an official response from the town as to the exact date that we need to be out of the Hertner property. As we heard during our joint meeting, it is a project that is now being fast-tracked, and the county is working diligently with all staff internally to figure out how to get us out of there. And so we do feel confident that we will be able to be out of there within the springtime parameters that they set forth, but we do want to make sure we do it thoughtfully, and it will require a lot of logistical challenges that we're tackling. We all are going to have to look for space and figure this out. The fleet department will ultimately end up in the armory, at least for the short term, until we can continue to, or until we take the next steps on the operation building that we have in design phase at this point. So we are working on it. We do want to do our best to salvage the building that is on Hertner right now. So we hope that we get the time that we need to be able to deconstruct that so that we don't lose any parts, because we do want to reconstruct that that building does have a useful life, and we want to take advantage of that. So that's, I guess, our biggest challenge at this point is how to make sure we do that properly.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner O'Donnell.
would you put the building at the armory?
We do not have space at the armory right now. Our original idea was to see if we could put that building on this property here across the street, somewhere near the new senior building. Obviously, it will need to be improved and probably brought up to town code, but the sheriff has had a request for one of the bays specific for evidence, and then our facilities department has had a request for some space to store things like their Bobcat, their equipment. There's also the office space associated with that building that could come in useful for us as we are sort of busting at the seams in this building. So ultimately, the goal was to reconstruct it here close to the complex.
Do you have the fleet building already designed?
We're at about 40-50% design. We do have cost estimates at this time, and we started looking at what the cost of capital would be. We will need to be borrowed to be able to complete that building. We do not have enough reserves to be able to pay for the entire amount. The rough estimates on costs were between $3.5 and $4.5 million. So we've been working to figure out ways that we could trim that cost down a little bit, see what we could do in-house, maybe things like the dirt work, stuff like that. We also are still waiting for El Prado Water and Sanitation to hopefully have a successful well, and we would be one of their first customers out there, one of their first commercial customers. It would definitely benefit us in the cost of construction if we could hook up to that water supply. Same thing, if the town is really trying to move wastewater out that way, we would take advantage of that as well. Otherwise, it will be a little bit more cost to creating a septic system for such a large commercial building.
Because, Mr. Chairman, my thought was if we could go to the legislature for funding, but then I do not believe it's on our ICIP.
I believe it is on our ICIP. We put it on there. My concern is we need to start construction prior to when we would most likely receive a grant agreement. As you saw today, we just got a grant agreement for a legislative appropriation that we got last session. And so we really need to get moving on this building in order to not continue to overpopulate the armory. It is going to be tight quarters for the short term, and we're going to do our best to accommodate public works, solid waste, and fleet in that armory building, but we do need to get moving on this project as soon as possible. So during our retreat, we'll probably show you a lot more of the details in regards to that building. It has been a joint effort to get to the point we're at with the design. We've definitely brought in all the directors of public works, solid waste, and fleet, so they all have their input. We've also brought in the administrative staff for their input in the office side of things. So we're very confident that the building has met most of the needs and a lot of the wants. We're not going to get every want, of course, because of the cost, but the needs are certainly there.
So would you then maybe ask for money in the next legislative session, or it just seems like this would be a natural, but
it may or may not. We do have the capacity to be able to borrow, and so right now we're trying to see what that capacity is exactly and what the cost of capital is. We also have had a request from a local bank to see if there's a potential for them to price it out with a private placement. So that's what we're at now, is just trying to figure out cost of capital so we could come back later on to the board and see how you feel about that cost of capital and how we move forward. It may require a combination of both debt financing and some reserve to meet a gap if we only have so much capacity. As we all know, we don't have a ton of capacity in debt. However, when we restructured the debt on this complex, we freed up some increments specifically for infrastructure. So we have those 2 free increments now that we're going to use to see what we can leverage. And that was the whole goal of this refinancing as well, to free up that money. So we did save the taxpayer roughly $3 million in net present value savings by doing that. Well, now that money, or that increment, will be used to try and leverage this.
so we're paying a price for affordable housing.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. It is going to come with a bit of a cost to the county to get out of that property thoughtfully, and we're doing our best to get out of there. But of course, we still support the need for it. We all have, the board always has, so we're going to do our best to meet the requests of the board and get us out of there so that that affordable project, or housing project, can get up and running.
Commissioner Blackburn. Thank you for being mentioned. No problem. What's this, I got 2 questions. Quick ones though. What's the approximate size difference between the armory and what's planned? Square footage, more or less? And if you don't know, I'll wait.
I don't know right off the top of my head, so I don't want to give you false numbers. What we can do is try and bring the plans that we have in a future meeting or the retreat. Like I said, you don't really see it. What we're actually focused on right now is just phase 1. The way it was designed out had a phase 2 that may come down later on, which would add additional coverage for equipment. But right now, the primary building will be a fleet building with, I think, 5 or 6 bays, and then some office space. And so that way we can house everybody together out there at that one facility, and we'll have adequate office space, meeting space, and state-of-the-art fleet building.
And the existing building, would that satisfy some of the needs of the potential phase 2?
Yes, I think in the short term it definitely would. We still have the ability, as we get departments out of the armory, it's going to seem big again. Because right now it really is just because there's so many different functions happening. the equipment outside around the surrounding part of the property is certainly taking up all the room we have. So as we move equipment out there, the armory will seem big again. And so we don't have a determined plan for that building as of yet, and that's something we'll start exploring as we get closer to vacating the building. But in the short term, yes, phase 2, well, it'll be useful to have the armory to store equipment.
And the building that you're going to reconstruct.
That, like I said, we hope to be able to share with facilities and the sheriff so they have a secured bay. Sometimes evidence they bring in is a park where it's big enough that they need this secure storage, so we're trying to accommodate them close to their offices where they can keep an eye on it and maintain the integrity of that security.
Well, I lied about the 2 questions. One more. In addition to moving the building, of course, we've got a lot of other metal and equipment out there, and I know that there's some concern with that get moved even before the building. What's the plan on that?
We are preparing for an auction, the process of which does include us going to the local government division and the Board of Finance, and that's the step we're at right now. We are prepared to auction off almost everything that is considered metal or junk. Some of that, some of those cars, for example, some of the old Crown Vics from the sheriff, we've tried to auction a couple times. If this final auction, if they are not sold, we then have the ability to scrap them and take them off for scrap metal. So essentially, the auction step 1, whatever's left after the auction, most of that we're going to do our best to try and make some money on and get some cash into the scrap.
And the auction is a state requirement?
Yes.
Because it's taxpayer money. And what's the date of the auction?
We won't know that till we get approvals back from the local government division.
More or less?
We're hoping, if it were up to us yesterday, but I'm hoping January. Really, we have done what we need to on our side. We've certified the assets to be sold and we've given them a list. And now it's up to them to authorize us to go ahead and do that auction and get that. But thank you.
Vice Chair Guy. Mr. Chair, Mr. Courtwood. To demo a building and re-erect it somewhere else is going to cost us twice as much, if not more. If that's what the plan that I've heard, and I'm not, maybe I was out of that field, but we need to really consider that if you want to put something there for facilities and or sheriff's department, that becomes something that's new, because it's going to take as much time as to be a big safety issue to try and demo that building and itemize every I-beam and put it back. And believe me, I've had some experience in some demolition and trying to relocate another building, and it's not the easiest task and it costs more money. And just buying another building and putting it up and adding all that extra effort, but you know, it's something to chew on when you see now with engineering.
Especially if we run into the same issues with the steel as we did with Los Cordobas Bridge. I mean, a new bridge would have been just a couple of $1,000 more and would have been 90 days less. Right. So it's hard. That definitely made sense to just go do. But, we have to meet any steel standards after learning what we did with the Los Cordobas Bridge steel nightmare. You have 30 days to get certified, recertified.
Understood.
So yeah, just explore every possibility before we go.
Well, thank you for that. We'll definitely look into that and see. I guess the thought was it's a good metal building, and as we've run into some of the fire districts, the price of metal has gone up tremendously. Hopefully, with our treaty on the tariff war, that might subside, and it may then again be cheaper to look at brand new buildings. So thanks for that, Commissioner. We'll definitely look into that sooner than later.
Anything else?
That's all I have for today.
I understood from the chief of Rio Fernando that they were holding our building hostage. Did we get that resolved?
That has not yet been resolved, but yes, unfortunately, the manufacturer has now come up again with another cost for us. They delivered half the building and they're asking for $6,000 in shipping, which we will fight back on this.
Sickle, Randy.
At this point, yeah, I feel like we may have them hostage more than they have us. We haven't paid a dime and we own half the building. They delivered half the building to us and we haven't paid them anything. So I'm hoping that that's some leverage for us.
So,
I have a question.
okay. To me or to Mr. Cordova?
Mr. Cordova,
Oh, okay.
could you please find out what the holdup is at Philemon Sanchez? There's still half an open trench, and the park is still closed. concession stand is there, and I never see anybody working there, so why isn't that trench covered up?
I'll follow up and look into that. I do know we need to do additional work around the building, but that shouldn't have anything to do with the trenching, so I'll follow up on that.
I'd like to get the park back open.
Let's not follow.
Yeah, well, just, you know, yeah.
All right. Next item, under item 14, Commissioners' reports and matters, new business, Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, just a brief announcement. You probably got an email
No, that's
from
B.
Taos United.
That's
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
okay. Under item B, Commissioners' announcements. Commissioner O'Donnell.
You probably were contacted by Taos United. They're having a legislative event tonight, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Kit Carson Boardroom. They say Representative Gonzalez and the Senator will be there, plus other people talking about various topics. So I'm just announcing that on their behalf. New Mexico Health Security Plan, renewable energy, water rights, and it's going to be action-packed. And for those who are listening who may want to, see their state legislators, they supposedly will be there. Thank you.
Commissioners, Anissa is working on setting up the swearing-in ceremony for Paloma, for Maria, three of us, and Sheriff Ogriff. It will be on Friday, January 4th, as you may already know, but if there's certain information that she might need from each of us, she's going to make a little program and things of that. So those that are getting sworn in that day, just so you know, it is January 4th, 3 p.m. And you should contact her and see if she needs personal information from you, or if you want any pictures or something like that, you need to get those to her very soon.
Of yourself, portrait.
Okay? Or if you just want to use the old one. Okay, anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. Cordova, when could we see a preliminary agenda for the retreat?
Soon we have one. We were just trying to schedule the times and give everybody the opportunity to find the right time. So we'll get you something pretty soon. Essentially, the first day in the morning will be a presentation from myself and Ms. Martinez on the financial, where we're at the county, and then after that, we'll allow the electeds to present to you in the department.
So in terms of meetings for the rest of the month, we have the 10th, is that special hearing? Yes. And we have
Split, Mr. Vito, sorry, should remember this, but Ed has right here to votes for the.
More homework?
And then the 18th and the 18th.
18th, and that's it?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll ask the commission if it's okay if I participate by phone on the 10th. I won't be here. So can I vote? How does that work, Mr. Andy?
It's a good question, Ed. Do you have that off the top of your head with under our LUR? Is there a specific requirement for telephonic attendance by commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Arto, I'm not familiar with that. I don't have the land use code with me. I believe that the individual is allowed to participate in the public hearing. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know of anything off the top of my head that would prevent it. I'll take a look at it and make sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And that's something that you had scheduled months before this got scheduled. So.
Right.
Item C, approval of letter of support for Healing New Mexico Communities Projects. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you. I think you all got this email. This is a UNM Health Sciences Center. They're working on a critical project related to reducing opioid-related deaths by 40% over a 3-year period. They're asking for this letter of support.
Motion to approve.
And I just want to say it's a $110 million grant if they get funded by NIDA and SAMHSA. So
We have a motion and a second. Clerk call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blankenher?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Bell?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you,
should
Commissioner.
we get that signed since we're all here? Because that needs to go out right away. So can we get that letter and have us sign it?
Yeah, we can get,
Pronto.
maybe, do you have it?
They asked that
Our
we
clerk is very efficient.
send it back, email as soon as possible. Thank you.
Sign above your names. Okay, next item, item 15. Taos County Board of Commissioners reconvene in closed session to discuss, on a discussion regarding the Mexico tax and rev litigation. These matters may be discussed in executive session under Open Meetings Act exemption 10-15-1H7, which allows for discussion pending or threatened litigation. Mr. Audio, is it your recommendation that we go into executive session?
It is, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second to go into closed session under the exemption 10-15-1H7. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blakenhart?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Fambro?
Yes, we need to go upstairs. Commissioners, motion to come back into open session.
So moved.
Second. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blakenhart?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos? Chairman Fambro?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Audio, will you give a report as to the discussion content in the closed meeting?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public, Commission went into closed session to discuss potential litigation matters pursuant to one of the exceptions of the Open Meetings Act. That discussion was held and no action was taken.
Commissioners, motion to accept Mr. Audio's report.
So moved. Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Commissioner Blakenhart?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gagos?
Yes.
Chairman Fambro?
Yes. Next item is item 16, adjournment. Pleasure of the Commission.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all. Thank you.